on yet another record day for the S&P 500. Carol Massar, you weren't here yesterday, but the S&P 500 continues to barrel on.
Yeah, or the day before.
Welcome back.
Or the day before.
It's not like I'm not working, guys. You just got to get up
I
early.
haven't seen you in weeks.
All right, whatever. All right. I'm just going to say it has been quite a run for the S&P 500. You know, we've had some guests coming on looking at the market saying they're getting a little concerned about valuation, but we also at the same time have people saying, like, in an election year, it's typically good for equity investors.
Okay, speaking of equity investors, they had a pretty good week, as you mentioned. We had a lot of companies report earnings. The big banks rounded it out. We had Netflix yesterday. I know that's one of your gainers. I'm not going to give it all away,
Don't
Carol.
take it.
But I'm thinking about next week because we got a ton of earnings on deck. We got Tesla, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, GM, Verizon, IBM, Coca-Cola, AT&T, just to name a few, Scarlett.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's got to gear up for that. But you wonder, once we get past that, how much conviction there will really be to take up new positions. I mean, it's all a matter of waiting for all the event risk to go past, right? It's not earnings. We know it's going to be
It's
election.
a single event you're talking about.
Yes. Well, and then the FOMC meeting that comes after that.
Well, I mean, I'll push back on that, though, a little bit, too, because when we talk about this grind higher, and this gets back to the conversation we had with Rob Arnott at the top, the idea that if you are a bottom-up investor here, I mean, this is kind of your time to shine. Yeah, you're not buying baskets of stocks, but there is a lot of value out there. And I think when we talk about that rotation, that's kind of what you're seeing. It's not necessarily a wholesale rotation from sector to sector, but folks trying to find value on an individual stock basis. And at least for right now, the earnings, and for that matter, the economic data is somewhat supportive of that. We do get our record high here on the day on the S&P 500, 58.64 and change, up about 23 points on the day. And that's going to be good enough for about a 0.4% gain on the day as well. The NASDAQ up about 0.6%. The Dow also eking out a modest gain here on the day. And you take a look at the Russell 2000, sitting out the rally on the day, though, as Scarlett was just pointing out here, still a solid weekly gain, a solid outperformance.
All right, guys, taking a look at the S&P 500, you've got a majority of names higher in today's trade. 319 to the upside, 183 to the downside. Number one gainer this week in the S&P 500, Scarlett, United Airlines with about a 20% gain. KLA Corp down about 16%. Worst performer there in that index.
All right, let's take a look at the best performers in terms of sectors on the day. And you can see there's a ton of green there. The only red slice there is energy. Energy stocks down about a third of 1% as oil prices get ready to close out a lower week. Communication services, real estate investment trusts, and utilities are the best performers. They're all up at least half of 1%.
All right, guys, to the individual gainers I go as Tim teed me up. Netflix is up about 11%. We're a little punchy on this side. Number one gainer in the S&P 500, also number one gainer in the NASDAQ 100. Guys, you know the story. Stock up 11%, closing at a record. Its best day in a year. Soaring after the streaming company added more than 5 million customers in the third quarter, and it really eclipsed Wall Street's expectations on pretty much every major financial metric. We talked, I know you guys have been talking with our Bloomberg Intelligence, Geetha Ranganathan, just saying it. What an incredible quarter, really just kind of hitting it out of the park. Also a top gainer in the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100, Intuitive Surgical, that went up about 10%, and I believe also jumping to a record, certainly did intraday here. Company reported third quarter adjusted earnings per share that came in ahead of consensus estimates. A lot of Wall Street analysts raising their price target on the company. Piper Sandler said it was encouraged by another strong quarter of placements for the Da Vinci 5. That's that surgical robot that makes it easier for surgeons to kind of understand movement as they are making, as they are doing surgery.
Those, you know.
Did you really?
Yeah. I was actually my surgeon was actually one of the pioneers. He actually helped to pioneer that Da Vinci thing when it
cool.
came out. So, but it was, I mean, I was asleep, so I don't know how it worked, but I'm here, so I guess
It worked.
Yeah.
Well, and we're glad it worked. We're really glad
I
that
hope
it worked.
so. Thank you.
Yeah. We're glad most days to have you here.
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm just kidding.
Which days,
I'm
girl?
just kidding. I told you I was punchy. Lamb Weston also among the gainers in the S&P 500, guys. It's up about 10% here at the close. Packaged food company. I mean, who doesn't love potatoes, French fries, or hash browns? I certainly love them. The company coming out, I should say, an activist investor coming out, Jana Partners, saying it built up a 5% stake in the company in a bid to push the French fry supplier to explore strategic alternatives.
What are those alternatives? I was so confused by this. I mean, it's just potatoes. I mean, like, is there some innovation that I'm missing out on?
I don't know. They talk about board composition management changes.
Operational alternatives.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
You guys need to know this about Carol Massar. She loves French fries.
Whenever Tim and I travel and like we're running to a gate and he's like somewhere grabbing some food and he's like, "You want French fries?" I'm like, "Yes, of course, please."
And I get the French fries.
Wait, so let me get this straight. When you travel with her, she's ordering French fries. When she travels with me and I'm paying, she's ordering snails, champagne, and caviar. I'm not making this up.
There's some escargot and some red wine in there.
Okay, interesting.
All right, moving along.
Hey, I do want to get to the decliners today. I want to start with shares of CVS Health Corp. Big news out of the company today. Shares falling more than 5.2%. The company early this morning named David Joyner as its new CEO. It ended a tumultuous tenure for Karen Lynch. The move coming after the company repeatedly missed earnings targets. We saw activist interest setting off unrest among shareholders that came into public view in recent weeks. CVS also, for its part, saying that its third quarter results are expected to miss expectations from Wall Street. The company's going to put its 2024 earnings guidance, pull its 2024 earnings guidance because of those elevated medical costs.
Can I just defend her for a second?
Go ahead.
Because I feel like everyone's kind of putting this on her shoulders, but this is kind of like what the whole industry was doing. This whole, becoming kind of these sort of medical conglomerates, if you will, of turning their drugstores into doctor's office. It didn't work for Walgreens. It didn't work for the competitors. I mean, it was just a bad model, to be honest, or maybe ill-timed is maybe a better phrase.
Even some of the standalone health insurance companies have faced challenges recently. Look, every model is different.
I got your back, Karen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go to SLB, the company formerly known as Schlumberger. It's the world's biggest oil field services provider. Shares fell by more than 4.7%. The company came out and warned oil explorers spending growth has waned in recent months. They're taking a cautious approach amid lower crude prices. Scarlett talked about those lower prices. The company also told investors that it expects to exceed its target of $3 billion in shareholder returns this year, as most of its customers' projects are still going ahead. Shares of American Express falling 3.15%. The firm trimmed its full-year revenue forecast. The company predicts revenue for 2024 to increase just about 9%. That prior prediction, Romaine, was between 9 and 11%.
Yeah, absolutely here. And in the way, I think this earnings season is going to really give us a lot more clarity about what's going on and really about the direction of where the Fed goes and I guess for that matter, where Treasury rates go. And if you look at what happened on a weekly basis in Treasuries, you will see that there's a lot of indecision in this market. On the day, you are looking at yields slightly lower, but at 3.94 and change on your 2-year and 4.07 on your 10-year, that's really not much different than where we were a week ago today. And that gets to the whole idea here as to what people really are trying to price into this market.
All right, guys, let's get to some of the stories on our radar. And this is an interesting one, a Bloomberg exclusive. And it gets into the AI services that are being used to detect AI-generated content. Basically, teachers, about 2/3 of teachers report regularly using tools for detecting AI-generated content. And Bloomberg, actually, Business Week, did some research looking into these services, and they found that services falsely flagged about 1 to 2% of the essays as likely written by AI, and in some cases claiming to have near 100% certainty. Sounds like a small percentage, Tim, but you start adding it up and how often they're being used, that could lead to some tough false accusations among the student body.
Yeah, everybody check out this story. It's really interesting because they take you through examples of people who have whose work has been flagged as being generated by AI, but it actually wasn't. And even though it's only 1 to 2% of false positives, the implications of that can be pretty dire when you're in an academic setting.
Yeah, and students who are neurodivergent or students who have English as a second language tend to fall into, not this trap, but their work tends to get flagged a lot more than students who are native English speakers and write better, obviously. Another story that we've been keeping an eye on, and this has been at the top of the most read list all day, is how traders at some of the biggest banks have been getting cold calls telling them about jobs at other banks, like at Goldman or at Morgan Stanley, in exchange for some details on their current salaries. And it turns out that these are not real job offers. In fact, these are calls made by an actual recruiting company that's just doing due diligence on salaries.
But this is what sort of, I was so confused by this story because they make it sound like this is a legitimate business practice, but isn't this deception to a certain extent? I mean,
isn't this what?
Deception. I mean, I understand you're trying to get information here, but if you're telling people we're recruiting for something that you actually are not recruiting for, and you're just milking them for information, how is that legal?
Well, and they're pretending they're someone else. They're not
what is
accurately
this?
identifying who they are.
What's going on?
I don't know.
Carol, thanks for showing up today, Carol. You're not giving me any answers today.
I know. Well, I feel like, isn't this what investors do to kind of get information?
Yeah. Yes, and that's called cheating.
Yeah, but they're also misrepresenting themselves by saying, hey, I'm calling about a specific job opportunity.
Yeah, there's no opportunity.
Firm. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how's that not? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm a law and order guy. What can I say?
Yeah, and we're glad you're here. I'm just going to make it set the record straight.
For today, right, Carol?
For today. No, for always. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform coverage.
Memories.
I know. Have a good weekend, you guys.
This is why I
Stay
just
safe.
hum the Ave Maria all day.
Oh, boy.
That is our wrap. Our cross-platform, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. Folks, we will see you again, same place on Monday.